There are nations born from geography. There are nations born from empire. And then there is Israel, a nation born from memory. 2,000 years of exile, 2,000 years of longing, 2,000 years of prayer, ending with the words, "Next year, in Jerusalem." When the Jewish state was reborn in 1948, it was not merely a political event, it was a civilizational return. But the miracle of Israel was not forged in agreement alone. It was forged in argument. At the center of that argument stood two giants, David Ben-Gurion, the architect, Menachem Begin, the guardian. One built the foundation. The other insisted it be defended with iron. Both loved the Jewish people. Both sacrificed for Zionism. Both believed they understood what Jewish survival demanded. But they disagreed deeply on how Jews must wield power in a hostile world. To understand Israel, you must understand that argument. David Ben-Gurion was born in 1886 in Poland, into a world where Jews lived cautiously. His father was a Zionist before Zionism was fashionable. In their home, Hebrew was not just sacred language, it was rehearsal for sovereignty. By his teenage years, young David led a Hebrew-only youth circle. He insisted Jews speak like a nation even before they had one. This instinct defined him. Nations are built deliberately, not emotionally, not impulsively, deliberately. When he arrived in Ottoman Palestine in 1906, he did not come as a dreamer. He came as a worker. He drained swamps, joined agricultural communes, helped establish Hashoma, Jewish self-defense patrols. He understood something essential. If Jews were to return, they could not return as guests. They must return as builders. He joined the socialist Zionist movement. But even here, Ben-Gurion showed his defining trait, pragmatism. For him, socialism was a tool. Zionism was the goal. He later wrote, "A land is not acquired without tribulations of work and creativity." Ben-Gurion believed in institutions, in trade unions, in disciplined governance, in political legitimacy. When the British issued the Balfour Declaration in 1917, many celebrated as if the work were done. Ben-Gurion did not. He understood declarations mean nothing without force behind them. He joined the Jewish Legion under Jabotinsky, serving in the British Army during World War I. Jabotinsky was not merely a Zionist. He was a warning. Brilliant, European, aristocratic in bearing. He saw something others did not. He did not believe Arab opposition to Jewish sovereignty would fade with compromise. He did not believe goodwill would produce acceptance. In 1923, he wrote his famous essay, The Iron Wall. Its thesis was simple and controversial. No native population willingly accepts colonization. Therefore, Jews must build an iron wall of superior military power. Only when resistance becomes futile will peace be possible. To Jabotinsky, this was not aggression. It was clarity. He did not hate Arabs. He believed them rational, and rational actors do not concede until they must. Many in the labor Zionist camp rejected this tone as confrontational. They hoped cooperation, diplomacy, and gradual development would soften opposition. This philosophical divide would shape the Jewish state before it even existed. And when Jabotinsky died in 1940, his mantle passed to a man forged by catastrophe. Menachem Begin was born in Belarus in 1913. He grew up in a Zionist home, where Jewish dignity was sacred. Then Europe collapsed. Nazism rose. His parents were murdered by the Nazis. Begin was arrested by the Soviets and sent to Siberia. He watched the civilized world fail. He watched Jews trapped behind immigration quotas. He watched British policy restrict Jewish escape to Palestine during the Holocaust. This was not theoretical politics. This was existential. Begin drew a conclusion that would guide his life. Jews must never again wait for permission to live. Where Ben-Gurion believed legitimacy was the path to sovereignty, Begin believed sovereignty must come first. By the early 1940s, Jews were desperate to escape Europe. The British White Paper limited Jewish immigration. Ships were turned away. Survivors were detained. Ben-Gurion's Haganah adopted a strategy of restrained cooperation with Britain during World War II. He famously said, "We shall fight the White Paper as if there is no war, and fight the war as if there is no White Paper." Begin disagreed. To him, Britain was obstructing Jewish rescue. His organization, the Irgun, launched armed resistance against British rule. This was not terrorism in Begin's mind. It was anti-colonial revolt. The clash grew bitter. The Haganah even arrested Irgun members and handed some over to British authorities during a period known as the Season. Here is one of the most consequential moral moments in Jewish history. Begin ordered his men not to retaliate against fellow Jews. He could have escalated. He did not. He declared, "There will be no civil war among Jews." This restraint prevented bloodshed inside the Yishuv. It also demonstrated something central to Begin's character. He was aggressive toward enemies, never toward his own people. After Israel declared independence in 1948, the Irgun brought a ship, the Altalena, carrying arms. Ben-Gurion insisted on a unified army under state authority. When negotiations failed, he ordered the ship shelled. Jews fired on Jews. The ship burned. Begin again ordered his men not to fight back. Civil war was averted. Ben-Gurion preserved state authority. Begin preserved Jewish unity. Both men acted from conviction. Both believed they were protecting Israel. History still debates who was right in that moment. But without Begin's restraint, Israel may have fractured at birth. For the next 3 decades, Ben-Gurion's left-wing political movement dominated Israel. He oversaw the War of Independence, massive immigration from Europe and Arab lands, the Sinai Campaign of 1956, establishment of national institutions, relations with West Germany, and the development of Israel's early strategic doctrine. He built the framework of the state. Meanwhile, Begin sat in opposition, ridiculed, marginalized, but patient. History had not finished with him. When the guns of 1948 fell silent, a new battlefield opened. Not one of trenches, one of politics. The state of Israel was now real, fragile, poor, surrounded by hostile armies, but real. And in this new arena, David Ben-Gurion stood unchallenged. He was not merely prime minister, he was founder. He presided over the absorption of Holocaust survivors, the airlift of Jews from Yemen and Arab lands, the construction of development towns, the creation of the IDF, the building of national infrastructure, and the forging of alliances abroad. Israel in the 1950s bore his imprint. He was stern, visionary, uncompromising when necessary. And for many Israelis, especially those shaped by European labor Zionism, he embodied competence. Meanwhile, across the aisle, in the Knesset, sat Menachem Begin. He led the Herut Party, political heir to Jabotinsky's revisionist Zionism. He did not command ministries. He did not control institutions. He did not dominate the press. He spoke, and he waited. For nearly 3 decades, Israel was governed by the labor movement. It was not tyranny. Israel was democratic from the beginning, but it was dominance. To many Israelis, this stability was reassuring. To others, particularly immigrants from North Africa and the Middle East, it felt distant. Begin recognized something early. Zionism was not just about land. It was about dignity. He traveled to development towns. He visited marginalized communities. He addressed citizens with formal respect, often calling people sir and madam, regardless of class. He did not speak down. He spoke up. And quietly, a different Israel began listening. During Ben-Gurion's long tenure, Israel faced immense external pressures. The 1956 Sinai campaign, in coordination with Britain and France, Israel struck Egypt after Gamal Abdel Nasser nationalized the Suez Canal and blockaded Israeli shipping. Ben-Gurion demonstrated strategic boldness. Israel's military capacity stunned observers. But international pressure forced withdrawal. This moment reinforced Ben-Gurion's belief in careful diplomacy. It also reinforced Begin's belief in the necessity of strength. Both men saw the same event through different lenses. Ben-Gurion pursued reparations agreements with West Germany in the early 1950s. It was controversial, deeply emotional. For survivors, accepting German money felt like betrayal. Begin led massive protests against the agreement. He thundered in the Knesset that Jewish blood could not be compensated. Ben-Gurion insisted reparations were essential for Israel's survival. Israel ultimately accepted reparations. History judges that decision as economically transformative. But it also revealed a deeper divide. Ben-Gurion believed survival justified difficult compromises. Begin believed dignity must anchor survival. In 1967, the Middle East exploded again, surrounded by hostile armies, blockaded, threatened with annihilation. Israel struck preemptively. In 6 days, it defeated Egypt, Syria, and Jordan. It captured the Sinai Peninsula, the Golan Heights, the West Bank, and East Jerusalem. And for the first time in nearly 2,000 years, Jews stood at the Western Wall under Jewish sovereignty. For Begin, this was not merely strategic, it was biblical. For the labor establishment, it was complex. Territorial gains created diplomatic challenges. Here, Jabotinsky's Iron Wall doctrine appeared vindicated. Military superiority had forced adversaries to reconsider assumptions. Strength had reshaped reality. Begin's worldview gained new resonance. On May 17, 1977, something unthinkable happened. Labor lost. After nearly 30 years, Israeli voters handed power to Begin and the Likud. It was called simply the upheaval. This was not merely an election. It was democratic maturity. Ben-Gurion had built a state strong enough to change leadership peacefully. Begin had built an opposition patient enough to inherit it. When Begin spoke that night, there was no revenge, only humility. The former underground commander became Prime Minister of Israel. History turned. Now came the true test. Could the revolutionary govern? Could the Iron Wall philosopher act with responsibility? The answer surprised critics. In 1981, Israeli intelligence assessed that Iraq under Saddam Hussein was nearing nuclear capability. Begin faced a dilemma: wait for diplomacy or act preemptively. He chose action. Israeli jets destroyed the Osirak reactor in Baghdad. The world condemned Israel. Years later, after the Gulf War, many quietly acknowledged that the strike had prevented a nuclear-armed Saddam. Begin articulated what became known as the Begin doctrine. Israel would never allow hostile regimes to acquire weapons capable of annihilating the Jewish state. It was Jabotinsky's Iron Wall, translated into modern strategic policy. And then came the unexpected. Egyptian President Anwar Sadat extended a hand. Begin negotiated. He agreed to return the Sinai Peninsula, in exchange for peace. The former underground fighter signed a treaty ending decades of war. It was bold, risky, visionary. The same man accused of extremism proved capable of historic compromise. But notice the pattern. Strength first, then peace. Iron wall, then handshake. History rarely offers simple verdicts. Ben-Gurion built the institutions without which Israel could not exist. He navigated impossible odds, declared statehood, established sovereignty. He was indispensable. Begin safeguarded Jewish dignity and asserted that Jewish power must never again be timid. He embedded deterrence into Israel's strategic DNA. He expanded democracy. He made peace from strength. If Ben-Gurion was the founder, Begin was the consolidator. And if we look at modern Israel, its security doctrine, its insistence on military superiority, its refusal to entrust survival to external guarantees, we see echoes not only of Ben-Gurion's pragmatism, but of Jabotinsky's iron wall and of Begin's conviction. Israel today carries both legacies, foundation and iron, builder and guardian, architect and defender. Two men, one state, an argument that made a nation stronger. Thank you for listening.